Remember when rom-coms were worth a shit?
Those were up, and they did.
More smarts, and my... He told me enough!
No, I. Here's Chuck.
Hey everyone, it's Donji Corleone here, and I am here with, before I get started on this video, I hope everybody's having a good day, and or a good morning if it's already starting in your area. The day's kind of already starting in my area, but so far how I started off the morning was, alright, hold on, come on, Venus. Took him out, fed him, the other one I have, took him outside. Then, got on the Peloton bike for about 20 minutes, burned off about 151 calories. Been trying to burn off as many calories as I can after kind of the October, November, December hiatus, because of all the fun festivities and fun food eating and stuff that happens during that time. Now that it's January is usually the time anybody tries to burn off a lot of calories they've gained. Yeah, so far, my face feels a little bit thinner ever since I got back on that bike last week, and yeah, it probably looks a little different if you guys can kind of see, but anyway, after that I had some egg whites for breakfast, banana, evolve a smoothie, and now I am going to be here with a brand new movie review. This movie review is going to be for a rom-com released in 2004 and was one of the first to combine several future Marvel actors. Well, one of them, a main star, was already a Marvel actor the year before this movie had been released. And I mean, like, for the rest of the cast, though. The rest of the cast would soon be future Marvel actors. But anyways, this film is going to be for none other than one of the few good rom-com films, and that's 2004's 13 Going on 30. Starring one of Jennifer Garner's best films. So yeah, what's the plot of this? Well, after total humiliation at her 13th birthday party, Jenna Rink wants to just hide until she's 30. Thanks to some wishing dust, Jenna's prayers have been answered. With a knockout body, a dream apartment, fabulous wardrobe, an athlete boyfriend, a dream job, and superstar friends, this can't be a better life. Unfortunately, Jenna soon realizes it's not what she wanted. The only one that she needs is her child best friend Matt, a boy that she thought destroyed her party. When she finds him, he's a grown-up and not the same person that she knew. Yeah, so how was this made? Well, in October 2002, director Gary Winnick was in negotiations to direct 13 Going on 30. It was also announced that Susan Arnold and Donna Arkoff-Roth were producing the project with the writer's manager Gina Matthews. Actress Jennifer Garner was cast for the movie's lead role. In order to film the picture, Garner shot while on break from filming her television series Alias. Gwyneth Paltrow, Hilary Swank, and Renee Zellweger were even considered for the lead role. And then Judy Greer was cast to play Lucy, Garner's so-called best friend. Kathy Baker and Phil Reese were cast as Garner's mother and father, respectively, and later Andy Serkis was selected to play Garner's boss. Samuel Ball was cast as Garner's boyfriend. Then in May 2003, it was reported that filming for the movie was underway in Los Angeles with Revolution Studios. And it was filmed in Los Angeles, New York City, and South Pasadena, California. Interior shots were filmed in Los Angeles, and the crew moved to New York City where they shot exteriors for 17 days. Principal photography took place from May to November 2003, and it was written by John Goldsmith and Cassie Gillespie. The script was polished by Nils Meltzer. And even Krista B. Allen, who portrayed 13-year-old Jenna, would reprise the role as a younger version of Jennifer Garner, portraying a teenage version of Jeremy Philadelphia in Ghost of Girlfriend's Past soon. And then, of course, in October 2016, 13 Going on 30 was announced to be going to Broadway, but those plans did not move forward. Honestly, I think it's kind of good they didn't, as I don't see this working as a Broadway show. So after the film was shot and marketed, 13 Going on 30 would be released around April 2004 and received generally positive reviews from critics, many praising Garner's performance and its nostalgic environment. It was also praised for its humorous plot and self-empowering message. The film was also a commercial success, earning $22 million on its first week and grossed over $96 million worldwide, and became one of the year's biggest-selling DVD rental titles. And the soundtrack even charted the top 50 of the US Billboard 200 chart. Garner's acting earned her nominations for both the MTV Movie Awards and the Teen Choice Awards. Now, it all comes down to my reaction. As for my reaction, this may just have to be one of my favorite rom-com movies of all time. It basically starts off as a comedy movie in the first half, and then it gets very dramatic in the later half of the film and serious. Like our main star, of course, our main character is Jenna Rink, who is this typical teenage girl who wants to be something else, not realizing she's already special. And of course, young Jenna wants to be a sixth chick, which young Matt, it points out is impossible, because she would be the seventh chick. Logic aside, though, Jenna yearns to be popular, so she invites sixth chick leader Tom Tom and her crew to her 13th birthday party. Then Matt is in love with Jenna, gives her a miniature dream house that he made, including a cut out of the 80s pop star Rick Springfield. The dream house even comes along with magic dust that can kind of grant some kind of wish. But at the party, Tom Tom plays his cruel trick on Jenna, and Jenna's left devastated, wishing like she were 30 and 5ing. And then, of course, we get to a humorous opening scene where she wakes up into her Jennifer Garner self, now in the 30, with this naked pro hockey player who's basically, we find out, is her boyfriend, which she doesn't know yet because she just woke up in this body, in a New York apartment. She's now an editor of her favorite magazine, Poise. She's now working for her boss, played by Andy Serkis. Her co-worker and best friend is aka grown-up Lucy Tom Tom, whose grown-up self is played by Judy Greer. And of course, in another funny moment of the first scene, she discovers she has boobs. And on the surface, it looks like Jenna has her dream life. And then she tracks down grown-up Matt Flamoff, who's now played by the grown-up Mark Ruffalo, is now a professional photographer. She discovers they're no longer friends, well, because of the beginning scene. They've not spoken since they were 13 years old. She gradually realizes that she's become a woman who doesn't speak to her parents and doesn't have any real friends. They get a great scene with Matt. Jenna tells him to just basically stop being so nice to him. He didn't deserve it. She's not a nice person. The thing is, you're not 13 anymore. It's a wonderful grown-up moment. Like, what would you do when the choices you made in the past result in you being the person you never intended to be? And credit Goldsmith and Yusuf's story hook for taking a lighthearted look at the difference between what you want in life and what you're going to be in life. So yeah, like in a roundabout fashion, Jennifer Garner's Jenna really takes on what she's going to be. Like the remember we used to be good moments. It's Garner's earnestness and big heart that wins one over in 13 Going on 30. She has such a magical screen presence in this film. And Mark Ruffalo's wonderful chemistry with Garner, even as Matt one can tell that he always loved Jenna, although he is kind of getting married to someone else. Like, Ruffalo's understanding sweetness and charm near the end of the film here. And like the first half of this movie, the first half of her being 30 starts off as kind of comedic. As that film progresses, as her scenes of being her 30-year-old self progress, the movie gets surprisingly pretty dramatic and mature. Very surprisingly. And then of course, like, well, the end, obviously she goes back to being 13, and it seems like the 30-year-old stuff was just a hallucination. But she's back in the closet, but of course it turns out she goes to replay the whole party beginning scene. Instead, she actually plays it right though, so at least like she kind of realizes, she decides to take this second chance of being 13 again seriously and fix her like mistakes, and then goes on to live a much better life in the 30-year-old time. So at least it still has somewhat of a happy ending for her character. Some actors are just born to play certain roles. Even though I've never been the biggest Jennifer Garner fan, she's beyond perfect for the role of Jenna Rink in 13 Going on 30, conveying the perfect amount of innocence, charm, and earnestness, and the joy of seeing Garner play a 13-year-old trapped in the body and life of a 30-year-old woman is unparalleled, and I love the nostalgic feeling of the film, even though I didn't really grow up in the era Jenna obviously did in the 80s. I wasn't born around that time. And the overwhelming feeling of reading to remember what used to be good. Like, Mark Ruffalo is even an instantly likable, relatable love interest for Garner, and they have remarkable chemistry, like I've said. We've seen this type of story before, but it's all in the execution, and I nailed it here. This is a clever movie filled with great touches, such as the close-up of Jenna's face as she's confined and her friends, returning to be a bunch of 12 and 13-year-olds from the building, the magazine party where Jenna initiates the dancing, like the dancing to Thriller times, which is also pretty good moments. And another great scene, which is in the restaurant where a friend points out that cute guy stuff, and the usual fish out of water jokes ensure, but Garner brings a freshness and sparkle to the ordinary material, and it's aided immensely in Mark Ruffalo's extremely likable performance as the adult Matt, who she seeks out immediately. Like 13 Going on 30 can be also still a little predictable at times, but it's the best way a movie can be. Like, you're glad that the people you want to wind up together will wind up together, and you're content knowing that the story will come to a happy and satisfying ending because you wouldn't want anything less for these characters. There are some movies that just embody the term feel good, and this film is one of them. Love all kinds of films from foreign. Yeah, for me, like, there's always a place for films like this that just gives you a life, aren't super taxing to the intellect, and leaves you just a tiny bit won from the tears and empathy and laughs and delights. And I even think here this body swap has a little more to offer than most. It's one of the most rare beasts, like a really positive movie about how to be a decent human being. The protagonist is very warm, real, and grow to generally care for her. She stumbles her way throughout life, slowly realizing that all that glitter wasn't gold after all. And then of course you got Maddie, who's the real beating heart of the film, though. For the first moment he opens his apartment door to the teenage brain Jenna, the distrust and pain he feels around the girl he once loved is palpable. You so badly want him to let his guard down, but at the same time you perfectly understand what's happened here, because scabbled over betrayal is a universal concept we can all understand. And screenwriting team John Goldsmith, the castmate Yispa, and director Gary Winnick perform a remarkable job in keeping the characters real. So we see that, like, for example, sometimes a teenager can't stop a cab, and the difference of vocabularies, expressions, and I could keep on going, like Jenna would learn anything again and discover, and that she's become an awful person and doesn't even have a best friend. Like, Garner handles each moment with gifted comedic timing here, because the movie is indeed very funny in the first half and wins everyone's heart with her looks and charm, which is what was pretty much her first starring role ever after Elektra on Daredevil. Behind her is, like, there was that supporting cast I was glad to see apparently through the road. Like, Judy Greer was one of the most natural comedic actresses around this time, and was just okay at times, but definitely one of her best. This is probably her best performance, though. Her so-called fake best friend Lucy's another one of these not that lovable here, and I really love the dramatic half. Like, once the movie gets dramatic is when she starts to realize the consequences of her decisions. She returns to her childhood home, kind of hides in her closet, and then her parents find her. She reconnects with them. She slowly kind of starts to reconnect with Matt, and her idea for the magazine gets approved. But of course, her fake best friend decides to is mad that things didn't go her way. So she pretty much makes up this lie to Matt that Jenna just chose not to use his photos, and here and then it's pretty much how the whole dramatic second half goes, and then Jenna realizes the person she became, the whole life she wanted to live is not worth it, and stuff, and like this movie like has actually a very good message here. But every good movie has to come with bad qualities. Because as for the bad qualities of the film, this is a very typical Hollywood movie, predictable pretty much from start to the end. It's never really in doubt how it would end up, but despite having this typical thing laying over it, it still has some enjoyment. It still has the enjoyable moments I mentioned, and I never get bored of this film. And for me, the movie's kind of stronger on the more dramatic side of the film than the comedy, than the more romantic side at times. Like being one of those typical romantic comedies, both sides kind of get to work in order to make a strong movie, and there's times it just doesn't work, but it does have some good moments which are well done. Times, well, and it is definitely still a pretty good movie, but I kind of knew what's going to happen as you kind of rewatch it more often. And the movie even kind of has some poor scenes, like I did mention. I wouldn't really call them dumb. They could have left out. They could have left out the whole scene with Jenna making friends with the whole neighborhood of 13's a bit unrealistic, the way I see it. I mean, that doesn't really. It kind of just doesn't work for me. During her time into 30-year-old self, befriending a bunch of 13-year-olds in her whole neighborhood, kind of doesn't really make a lot of sense. I kind of expect you to have more of a prejudice against these small timers, like now that she's become rich and beautiful, but I guess the director looked at it from a different point of view. So I found these scenes just kind of filler and pointless, and I don't really like Greer's character Lucy. She's kind of the most unlikable character of the film, and she's very snotty and annoying most of the time. But it's kind of hard to figure out how Jenna clearly never sees that Lucy's does not even like or care about her in the slightest. Thankfully, near the end, she does realize it, because when she returns to being 13, she satisfyingly rips her homework assignment that she basically forced her to do for her, an outfit as well, by pouring punch onto it. And this time chooses to stay with Matt for life and pretty much fixes the bad timeline that could have happened. And once she realizes that the wishing just pretty much gave her a second chance to set things right. So, at least her character fixes her timeline and gets the happy ending she actually should have really wanted from the start. And also, we never really see much of Andy Serkis' character much of the film, other than just being Garner's character's boss. I kind of wish we saw a little more of his character. However, in the end, despite those bad qualities, 13 Going on 30 is one of the few rom-coms that is still good and worth the watch and buy if you want to see a good rom-com film. Anyways, that's it for my review of 13 Going on 30. If you're wondering how I'm going to rank 13 Going on 30, here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, if you want to see several Marvel actors combined into one comedy film before that even became a thing, then I would easily recommend watching this and buying it for your shelf for sure. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rank 13 Going on 30, I'm going to give 13 Going on 30 an 8 out of 10. There we go. That wraps up my review for 13 Going on 30. I'm going to be reviewing quite a few films that I have watched of this week for my next reviews. We'll get back to the MCU review, final two reviews for phase 1 of the MCU near the end of the month. And yeah, because I still have a few weeks of January to go. But yeah, guys, and until then, that'll be it for this review. Thank y'all for watching. If you like this and want to see more, and don't forget to subscribe to Don G. Corleone.